Billy Gonzalez did do an admirable job. And I don't know how you felt, Will or TJ, when you guys watched it, but I didn't see us have to call a timeout coming out of a TV timeout because we didn't know what the play was going to be. I think we had the right number of men on the field every single time. The offense seemed to, I don't know, flow in a way that made sense. I did love going for it on fourth down. I don't know that I love the play call, but I love the aggressiveness. I saw improvement.
Yeah. Okay. So Sports Talk Jay, who you had on, I've had on and stuff. I'm sure a lot of people watching will know that name just because he's big here on YouTube. He did a little clip up of, he just called it Misery Loves Company because obviously Tennessee lost. That's his team. And then he basically clipped up reactions of other content creators like Zach at Locked On Auburn. He had the guy at Locked On South Carolina because they lost. And then he did yours. And he was like, Saturday was double bad for me because not only did Tennessee lose, but my favorite coach in college football is no longer I can't watch Billy Napier coach football anymore. And so obviously the whole thing was a troll. It's super sad. He showed some of your video. And you do this every week. So it's not, good, bad, and the ugly, right? Of everything. So even in a bad loss like USF that, you went over the good, although that was a pretty quick segment. So you said a lot of those things, he's like, I'm upset because even the Florida fan, they're losing games to their biggest rival and they're not even upset about it. They're happy that they got 12 or 11 men on the field and they're happy there were no penalties and they're happy that this happened and there were no false starts or whatever. He's like, so I could not even take joy in the fact that Billy Napier wasn't there. It was the most hilarious segment that I've ever seen because he was like, I'm just going to try and remember the good times, the 4 years that I got to spend with Billy Napier. It totally sounded like a breakup, like where you were trying to convince yourself that your life wasn't over. He's like, I'm going to remember the good memories. And I'm depressed that we lost to Oklahoma, but I might be even more depressed that I no longer get to watch Billy Napier coach Florida. So anyway, Will, for some serious conversation, you can talk about the Florida game too, but that's all I got.
I mean, I thought it was a great effort. There were still a few spots coaching wise where I thought were just kind of misses. I mean, we had Miles Graham covering Zachariah Branch and man on a long third down. I thought the fourth and short call, it was a good decision. They wanted to run Lagway all day, and then they go shotgun handoff in that. I thought that was not good. Yeah. But I mean, the biggest thing for me in that Florida game was if Lagway hits Hawkins late in the second quarter, that's 17-7.5. And the no catch for JMS doesn't matter. You got to hit that throw. And I think it was Trey Wilson who was wide open at the 52. Like, it was just missed opportunities. And whether it was coaching, whether it was execution, you just kind of saw Florida still being 1 or 2 plays short of being able to get that done. So Saturday night was really, really hard for me. But available to use just time of reflection to just kind of be like, all right, it was a good effort. It was kind of what I thought we were going to get, just 1 or 2 plays short.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love watching Sports Talk Jay's videos. Always entertaining. He is always entertaining. Yeah. I mean, a loss is a loss. And so I don't want to come on here and say like moral victories. Yay. I don't. But Florida played well with the number 5 team in the country, down 3 running backs, multiple wide receivers, multiple defensive players. They looked more functional than they have in the past. Nobody gave up. I thought Billy Gonzalez showed the appropriate amount of like fire. They would pan to him during a timeout and he would be ripping them in the huddle. And like, I need to see that. I don't want to see the monotone, like, you guys are trying really hard and I'm very proud of this effort. Like, I would like you to please MF someone for me and see if you can get them to pull something else out. And I thought that his press conference was really good too. We're actually getting press conferences where we're being told things, or we're being told like, yeah, this is terrible. I don't want to lose. I know you guys don't want to lose. Like, the winning is the goal here, like not just effort. And I fully appreciate that. I think that Florida every game that's left on the schedule is winnable. Obviously, Ole Miss is the least winnable out of those, but I still think that it is a winnable game. I think Florida probably ends up bowl eligible, which I think is a good thing. You get those extra practices. I think that they absolutely can beat Kentucky this weekend and get Billy G that first win. I love the amount of times that they looked at Trey Wilson. And we talked about this on the show, how Billy Gonzalez said, they asked him what he was going to do differently. And he said he really wanted to spread the ball around to his playmakers. Now, Dallas Wilson was out halfway through the game. You didn't have VB3. So maybe it's not that he was always going to be looking for Trey Wilson. It's just that's what he was left with. But Wilson almost doubled his production for the year in this one game. And he looked ready when they threw him the ball. They didn't just ask him to run laps behind the line of scrimmage, essentially. And he made the most of his time. You saw him crying after the game, which I thought was really interesting too, because I think there's more buy-in from him than we realized. And I think that maybe there was something between him and Coach Napier, and he didn't feel like Napier supported him or wanted him to succeed, or I don't know what, but Billy G clearly wants him to and trusts him because he fed him, and the results were positive there.
Yeah, on the Trey Wilson thing, I kind of want to parlay that into the video of Lagway after the game and just kind of how he was like chopping up the Georgia players. I don't want to be here like saying I don't like sportsmanship or I don't think that you should like leave it on.
I don't.
But like with Trey Wilson crying and then your quarterback kind of chopping up with Georgia players, the emotion that I want to see in that spot is what Trey did. You just lost a heartbreaking game to Georgia in what has been a really, really hard season.
Yeah.
And I don't question Lagway's effort in the game at all.
Sure.
I wish he was more upset. I wish maybe he is, but I wish he showed a little more like, I can't believe that just happened. We were right there, missed a few throws. I kind of wish we had that a little bit more. And we got to count about George Gums. He played awesome in that game, and he did begin his career as a wide receiver at NIU, which is an awesome story. Yeah. And I think that kind of helped him. Like that pure athleticism, like a wide receiver coming off the edge is unblockable because you can't keep up with that guy. So that backer for Gums really did help, and he played an awesome game.
Yeah, and with the Lagway stuff, I saw that his dad had some comments on social media today for people saying like, he's known these players his entire life, like please know the situation before you speak on it and whatever. And I don't think that there's somebody that wants to win more than DJ Lagway wants to win. And I would never sit here and say that. I don't think that there's any fan that wants to win more than any of these players want to win. I don't question that. But I do think, I think back to when my husband was there. 0% chance any of Urban Meyer's players would have been cutting up on the sidelines after a loss. And so I think it's more of the fact that Florida fans feel like Napier didn't put the emphasis on rivals that maybe he should have, that bleeds into our opinion of this situation. Like, I think that's what it stems for. We want you to hate Georgia. We want you to hate Florida State. We want these things to hurt because they hurt us. We want better outcomes than this. And so I think it was completely benign. I totally believe that these are his friends from growing up. But I do think that perception matters, particularly when you are eating up. I've seen multiple reports of 10% of the NIL budget for the entire team. I'm not saying don't say hi to your friend, but like a quick, like, hey man, meet him in the tunnel afterwards.
Yeah. And
say hi to him. Like, it's perception is reality. And it looks like you didn't take this seriously. And the juxtaposition of that is Wilson on the bench covering his face crying because this one hurts so bad. And then that the two of them supposedly have something that, between the two of them, it doesn't sit right with Florida fans. That doesn't mean that Lagway doesn't care. That doesn't mean that we think he didn't give 110%. I think that he's a competitor. I think he left it all out on the field. But perception matters, particularly when you're getting paid to be there.
I think these kids are just different too.
Yeah.
I think that it is closer to a job than it's ever been, right? It's always been a job, right? Like what student athletes do. But they're literally getting paid for it. This is closer to the NFL than it's ever been. It's going to take fans time to adjust their expectations of that. It reminded me of an NFL game.
That's true. Maybe that's on us. It was like an NFL game where they cut up with their former teammates afterwards.
No, I don't love it either. And I'm not even a Florida fan. But I would look at it the same way and just be like, dude, you just lost to your biggest rival. Like, your season's over. Who cares, right? Like, the rest of the year is a joke anyway. Who cares? But we all live and die with stuff. And these kids just don't. Also, you factor in the fact that, we are so used to, you have to have perfection or near perfection to win championships. And so every loss hurts. Yeah. And every loss doesn't really matter anymore. We're all talking about like, well, A&M could drop 2 down the stretch and Georgia could drop 1 more and Ole Miss could drop 1 more. And, so every loss doesn't hurt the same way and they don't care about rivals. And I don't think that's just a Napier thing, though I do think he impacted it. I just think that's part of who these kids are now. They're getting paid millions of dollars, specifically Lagway, to play a game. and their check is going to clear at the end of the day. Lagway didn't grow up some massive Gator fan that lived right outside of Gainesville. And I don't think he doesn't love you. Like, that's not my point. But like,
Sure.
These kids are not the kids of the 90s and 2000s that still hate these guys. Like, I was on a Miami podcast the week we played them, and a guy from the 80s was still talking about how he hates these guys at FSU. You know, like, that's just not today's football, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I don't, you know, when you look at it in that context, yes, after the game, you want your kids to be just as mad as you are. I'm just telling you, they're not. They just don't care, right? Like, if, you know, for every player in the country, if Auburn offers Lagway $5 million to come play next year, which I'm not saying they will, they're all going, right? Just like LeBron would go somewhere else if the NBA didn't have a salary cap and Miami offered him $75 million instead of 50. You know, like, that's the way this works. It's a business now. The faster we can come to grips with it, the faster we'll stop whining and moaning and bitching about these things.
Never. I promise to never stop whining and moaning and bitching.
I will complain for
knowing you.
No idea.
My whole life. Just buckle up.